Yeah, count 6 folks are. You just give a few more seconds. Okay, let's start. Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Happy New Year and welcome to our first meeting of CC Power in 2022. I'll call this meeting to order and ask General Counsel Brittany Ellis to verify the meeting quorum.
I can verify that there is a quorum present.
Thank you. There have been no matters identified subsequent to posting the agenda. So I'll move to item number 4, which is public comment, and ask that if any member of the public would like to address the board concerning any matter not on the agenda, please do raise your virtual hand. Not seeing any, I will bring it back and note that we have Director Pepper, Director Sears have joined us, so we now have 8 board members present. We go to item 5, consent calendar, and ask if any of the board members would like any item removed, and if you don't want to remove an item from consent, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
This is Sonoma. I move approval of the minutes and the resolution on the consent calendar.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. I'd also like to, could admin, yeah, cool. I'd also like to recognize that Director Chassett has joined the meeting too. Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second. Brittany, could we get a vote on this, please?
Could we run to public comment for the consent agenda?
I'm sorry. Any public comment? Not seeing any. Let's bring it back to a vote.
Okay, for the consent agenda, Central Coast Community Energy,
Yes.
Clean Power SF,
Yes.
East Bay Community Energy,
Yes.
Marin Clean Energy,
Yes.
Peninsula Clean Energy,
Yes.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority, believe is absent, San Jose Clean Energy,
Yes.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy,
Yes.
Sonoma Clean Power Authority,
Yes.
Valley Clean Energy.
Yes.
The consent agenda passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 6A, which is the general manager's report. I'll hand it over to Tim Haynes to take care of both items. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. As to the long duration storage project update, this will be short and an oral report only. We remain in negotiations with an additional long duration storage project developers. We will bring those contracts before the board when the negotiations are finalized. And that could be as early as the next board meeting, which will be in March. And I suppose that's also a reminder that there won't be a February board meeting of CC Power. I'll move to item 2 unless there are any questions. Thank you. Agenda 6A2, the resolution of the Tumbleweed long duration storage project and authorization to execute the associated agreements. Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn the presentation of the Tumbleweed project over to Monica Bonilla, with Silicon Valley Clean Energy. Monica led the project oversight committee through the RFO, the evaluations, and the negotiations.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, directors. I'm Monica Padilla with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and I'm here representing what we refer to as a project oversight committee with the recommendation to approve the long duration storage agreements. We can go to the next slide. Just a little bit of background. Back in October, the CC Power board provided approval of a notice of intent to negotiate an energy storage service agreement with LS Power for their Tumbleweed energy storage project. Today's request specifically is to have the board approve resolution number 22-01-02, which would approve the actual project agreements and give the general manager the authority to execute those agreements, which includes the energy storage service agreement, a buyer's liability pass-through agreement, which is an exhibit to the ESSA, and the project participation share agreement with participating members. So in the next slides, I'll just go over a little bit of the agreements, the reason why we want to do this project, and the approval process. The next slide. So Tumbleweed itself, let's just start there, is the first project that we're bringing to the board for approval out of the long duration storage RFO, or request for offers, that we issued back in October 2020. And so while we've been at this for over a year, through that process, we've actually spent quite a bit of time understanding long duration storage, evaluating over 90 different projects, doing a very deep evaluation to get us to this particular project. And at the same time, developing a structure that would allow CC Power, a developer, and multiple CCAs to come together under a set of agreements to affect this project development. So the project itself is being developed by LS Power, or also known as Rev Renewables, for the project that's called the Tumbleweed Energy Storage LLC. They will be the actual sellers. It's a lithium-ion battery technology with an 8-hour discharge. The project size that we will be entitled to as a group is 69 megawatts. It's a full tolling agreement with full capacity rights, including resource adequacy. It's located in Kern County near Rosamond. It's expected to come online in April 2026. The project is offered to us at a fixed price, reflected as $1 per kW month with no escalator, and for a 15-year term. So those are the project basics. And if we go to the next slide. This here describes the members who agreed to participate in this project. And so each participating member is also a part of the project oversight committee and has been involved throughout the whole process, again, in evaluating, selecting, recommending, and even negotiating or directing the negotiation team on how to proceed with LS Power for the Tumbleweed project. These allocations here are based on those CCAs that are interested in participating in this project. And it's basically a pro rata share based on their load. And so we have sufficient subscription, at least indicated through the process that we've gone through thus far, which is really at the staff level, to take the full 69 megawatts. So you can see here how that breaks out by CCA. These are the amounts that'll be represented in the ESSA and the project participation share agreement. And so we're asking each CCA that if the CC Power board approves these agreements today, that they go to their CCA governing board or general or city council and seek authority to also approve these entitlement share. We're also asking that you seek authority to cover a contingency event. That is, let's say one or more of us do not get the necessary approvals from our elected officials, that the rest of us would pick up some additional capacity. And so we would have an adjusted or a new entitlement share. And then also to cover the event that after execution, one or more of us has to terminate the agreement for whatever reason. And so there's a condition in here that you would take up to 25% of your original entitlement share as a step-up provision. Next slide. And so why are we recommending this project to CC Power and to our respective boards for approval? First of all, when we set out to procure long duration storage, it was really done under the context that in the integrated resource planning process that we went through in 2020, there was indications by the California Public Utility Commission that long duration storage resources would be a necessary resource to add to our respective portfolios to assist with integrating renewable resources onto the grid. And while the IRP itself did not identify a specific capacity or technology or even a date by when these long duration storages might have to come on, it did indicate that we should be prepared to pursue them ourselves. So we issued a request for indicatives back in June of 2020 to kind of see if there was enough capacity and viability of capacity to come online, and kind of in the time frame that we thought the CPUC might ask us to bring them on. And through that process, we did in fact learn that there was quite a bit of capacity and viability. And so we included that information in our respective IRPs that we submitted to the CPUC in September of 2020. Following that, in October, a larger group of CCAs issued an RFO, or request for offers, again, not really understanding what the requirements were going to be from the California Public Utility Commission, but we had to put something out there, and we were hoping that whatever we put out there would align well with what the CPUC required of us if they did provide us a requirement. And so in June of 2021, the CPUC actually, via decision, ordered what we now call the midterm reliability procurement order. And that procurement order essentially called for 11.5 gigawatts of new capacity to be brought online by 2026. Included in the MTR procurement order was a requirement for at least 1,000 megawatts of long duration storage to be online by 2026. The procurement order also included specifics about the long duration storage resources, including a requirement that it have an 8-hour minimum discharge, that it be eligible for resource adequacy, that the contracts that were executed to meet this requirement be a minimum of 10 years. And they also indicated that even though they were identifying 1,000 megawatts of need, that need would be adjusted based on what they call this effective load carrying capacity. And so only a fraction of those of your nameplate capacity would count. So here in this table, we took the midterm procurement order and we essentially took everybody's requirements or net qualifying capacity. So the middle column here for each of the CCAs that are participating in this effort. And collectively, we have an NQC requirement of 96.5 megawatts. If you adjust that 96.5 megawatts for the effective load carrying capacity, which is essentially about 78%, our actual requirement is to procure 123 megawatts by June of 2026. So the Tumbleweed Project, if you recall, is 69 megawatts. So if the CC Power Board is to approve this and our respective elected officials approve it as well, we will meet about 55% of the MTR requirement. Next slide. So a little bit about the agreements. The first agreement, or the main agreement that we're asking for approval today, is what we call the Energy Storage Service Agreement. This is an agreement that is between Ellis Power, or actually Tumbleweed LLC, and CC Power. It's a 15-year term starting at COD. It includes provisions for development and performance deposits that we're all familiar with for those of us who have signed long-term power purchase agreements. And so they work very much in the same fashion. It also includes this concept of a buyer's liability pass-through agreement. This is an exhibit to the ESSA. And what this does is it guarantees performance to CC Power and to Tumbleweed by each of us. And so this is an important thing that was necessary to make this whole structure of contracting through CC Power work for Tumbleweed and also for the members. We protect each other against each other through this process. The ESSA also identifies this step-up provision of 125% of entitlement share. And it meets the enhanced requirements that the board specified with respect to long duration storage for labor, environmental justice. It is being provided to the board today in a substantively final form. Our understanding is LS Power's internal management, including their board, has signed off on this form of the agreement. And so if the resolution is approved, then the general manager will have the authority to execute on behalf of CC Power. And then once LS Power signs, which they would hopefully sign before, then we essentially have 90 days from that point to get all of the CCAs to approve the agreements that are necessary to effect this transaction. Next slide. So each of the CCAs will be asked, or the participating members will be asked also to approve and sign off on the project participation share agreement. This is between CC Power and the participating members. It sets all the obligations, benefits, requirements between CC Power and the participating members with respect to Tumbleweed. It also includes a requirement for deposits so that we can ensure that CC Power has sufficient funds to make payments under the ESSA. It also addresses the step-up provision of 125%, and it goes into a little more detail about how that actually becomes effective and what are the steps if a CCA has to terminate for whatever reason. It specifies general governance requirements, terms and conditions, including liability and insurance requirements. And then it also establishes this need for an operating agreement. And I'll apologize because this slide is not, I don't think we have the most up-to-date slides here, but in the more up-to-date slides, there is a couple other bullets I'll have to highlight here, including the voting structure for the PPSA. So while the whole CC Power board will vote on approval of the resolution and therefore approval of the agreements, including the PPSA, any changes to the PPSA to affect the operations of it will actually be done between the participating members. And so each participating member will have one vote. And so it's not a weighted vote, it's one member, one vote. And the non-participating members of CC Powers will be asked to abstain from voting. So we can go to the next slide. So in terms of approval process, again, we've covered step 1, which is the 60-day notice. We're at step 2 right now, which is board consideration of the Tumbleweed agreements. Again, if the resolution is approved, the general manager will execute on behalf of CC Power. And then the rest of us participating members will have to seek approval within 90 days. If we do not get approval within 90 days of the effective date, then the ESSA essentially terminates. Next slide. So I did have another slide in between these two slides to acknowledge the Project Oversight Committee. And I apologize for not having this up on the screen, but I do want to make sure that each of the CCAs that participated in this effort all the way through to the end are acknowledged. And so for each of us as CCAs, we had to submit one representative to be on the Project Oversight Committee. For SVCE, that representative was myself. For Sonoma Clean Power, it was Deb Emerson. For San Jose Clean Energy, it was Jean Soleil. For Clean Power SF, it was Michael Himes. For Valley Clean Energy, it was Gordon Samuel. For Redwood Coast Energy Authority, it was Richard Engel. And for Peninsula Clean Energy, it was Siobhan Doherty. And so also very instrumental to this whole process was our negotiating team, who actually interacted with the developer and then interacted with us and the general manager, Timothy Haynes. And that is Carrie Bentley from Gridwell Consulting and Kevin Fox from Keys and Fox as our lead counsel. So that was essentially our team, plus a whole bunch of other staff people that pitched in, most notably Ryan Tracy from Sonoma Clean Power Authority, who led a lot of the evaluation and the metrics and the risk analysis and everything else on these projects, and continues to do that for us as well. So a big round of applause and thank you to that whole team that brought us to where we are today. Oh, and also the BBSW team, Justin, Wynn, Brittany Isles, and Tony Braun, who helped us on the PPSA operating agreement and all of the process issues. So with that, This is our request today from the Project Oversight Committee and the General Manager. It is to approve resolution number 220201, which would approve the Tumbleweed LDS project and authorize the General Manager to execute associated agreements. So with that, I'll stop and take any questions.
Thank you, Monica. So just in terms of process, we do have the resolution, and we'll have Brittany kind of introduce the resolution, after which we'll move to clarifying questions from the board, then get to public comment and come back for a motion and discussion. Brittany, would you complete the overview of the resolutions, please?
Yes, so as Monica laid out, this resolution does four things. It approves the Tumbleweed Project as within the power and purpose of CC Power. It approves the Energy Storage Services Agreement, as well as the Project Participation Share Agreement, and then it delegates authority to the General Manager to execute those agreements as they are attached.
Thank you. So let's open up the floor for clarifying questions from the board. Please raise your hands and I'll recognize you. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So, oh, we have one. Director Hale, San Francisco.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to get clarification on one issue that I know was raised by our POC member, Mike Himes, and that is with respect to insurance. I understand that the insurance approach is to address, is intended to bring back to the board at a subsequent time some policy considerations for us, and to make sure that we're being financially efficient at this time, given our size. And I'd just like to hear from the appropriate person, perhaps that's our interim general manager, on that question, what the approach is for insurance going forward, please.
Thank you, Board Member Hale. For those who haven't paid close attention to the specifics of the insurance coverage, what we will cover is $1 million for the public entity liability, general liability, and auto coverage. We selected this approach after it had come up somewhat late in the process, but the general counsel, Justin Wynn, who's overseeing the development of the PPSA, and myself met with a insurance broker. We went over our risk profile, and with that, they came back with the option of that's in my estimation sufficient and scalable for the CC Power's current risk profile. Scalable is probably the operative word here, in that what we intend is that when we go forward with another long duration storage project, we would add another level of coverage in these areas, increasing the total amount to about $1 million. So that's the process that we went through, the level of coverage that we currently have, and what it is that we're intending to do as we go forward with future contracting. My suspicion is that what will happen is that as we get into this, we have 180 days to put this coverage in place. And my suspicion is during that period, what we'll have is an opportunity to be able to review this more carefully and make sure that others view this coverage as being sufficient and appropriate for the current scale of the responsibilities that we have.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions from the board? Okay, let's now go to public comment, and any members of the public who would like to comment on this item. Not seeing any raised hand. Oh, I see one. All right. Oh, hand disappeared. Alex Landsberg.
Hi, hello members. This is Alex Landsberg, Research and Advocacy Director with the San Francisco Electrical Construction Industry. Wanted to commend all y'all for moving forward and getting to this point with this project. As many of you know, we've been sort of following this organization for the past few months or so, and continuing to work with you guys on really making sure that labor, environmental justice standards are applicable to your projects. And I think this first long duration storage project is really a great testament to what happens when we work to get these issues ironed out on the front end. So I wanted to commend you all for moving forward with it, extend our support for it, and just let you all know that we will continue working with you on really tightening up and making sure that this agency does what we think it really has the capacity to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mayor Rick Bonilla.
Thank you all for the progress that we've made on bringing this project to where it is today. I think it is, as Alex Landsberg just reminded us, a testament to what we can do when we work together. I hope you can still hear me. There, I see the timer. Okay, anyway, that's about all I have to say. I look forward to having opportunity to work together, and especially to the prospect of being able to iron out these important things regarding labor and the environment before we actually get to this point on these projects. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not seeing any other hands on the attendee list. I'll also note that Director Marshall has joined us, and bring it back for comment or discussion by the board. And I'll just start off by, I want to recognize the Project Oversight Committee. From time to time, I would listen in on their discussions, and it just blew me away how impressive every one of your staff is, how thoughtful they were, and just working together to craft a first of its kind for our CCA community joint procurement agreement. So I want to thank all of your staffs, and of course, special kudos to Monica, who just was amazing in leading this effort. So thank you, Monica, and the team that Monica recognized of our chief negotiator, Carrie Bentley, lead counsel, Kevin Fox, and the BBSW team, Justin Wynn, and general counsel, Brittany Isles. Lots of background work and iterations, and lots of listening and crafting options. So thanks to the entire team. All right, with that, let me open it up for discussion with board members before we get to a motion. Or I'll entertain a motion also. So there we go. Director Cyphers, followed by Director Pepper.
I want to thank the POC members as well, and note that I think all of the struggles we've had over the last is the year and a half, I think, even prior to the formation of CC Power, of getting this over the finish line, are worth it because they helped us form the agency. And I think this project carried a lot of the weight of building the agency. And so I want to recognize it's not just a project. This was standing up an organization. So thank you all for being patient with that. And I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion from Director Cyphers, and I have Director Pepper who would like to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was hoping to make the motion, but Jeff beat me to it, so I'll second it. But I'd like to thank everyone for all their work and congratulate us for getting to this point of doing a joint procurement activity, joint action by our respective agencies. And I also wanted to report that we had a special meeting of our board last night to review this project, and our board voted for me to vote affirmatively today, and they also voted for Peninsula Clean Energy to be a part of this project. So we are done on our side, and we're happy to share. I think Siobhan shared the good news with the POC last night, and you're all welcome to use the information that we put together to get this through our board to similarly get it through your boards. So thank you, everyone. And this is really exciting that we are at this point.
Thank you, Jan, for being the second on this motion and being the first in getting all your approvals done. That's exciting. Discussion on this motion. Okay, Brittany, would you tell us about the voting process? Because we do have some non-participating members here, what the expectation is, and then take us to vote, please.
Yeah, of course. So as Monica mentioned, pursuant to the JPA, it is the expectation that the entire board will vote on this approval of the project. And so with that, I will go into the roll call. Central Coast Community Energy.
Yes.
Clean Power SF.
Yes.
East Bay Community Energy.
Yes.
Marin Clean Energy.
Yes.
Peninsula Clean Energy.
Yes.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority.
Yes.
San Jose Clean Energy.
Yes.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy.
Yes.
Sonoma Clean Power Authority.
Yes.
And Valley Clean Energy.
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
Thank you. Awesome. So we will be issuing a press release after signatures are done. We expect that to happen. The press release to be issued like Monday or Tuesday of next week. We'll be working with Rev Renewables on that, and we'll be sending the documents over to signature for them today, and then we'll sign it soon after. All right, with that, we'll move to item B, which is an update on the firm Clean Energy Resources RFO, and we'll have Tim Haynes introduce the topic and then hand it over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to just turn this over to Jean Zalay with San Jose Clean Energy. Jean is the lead among the POC members in order to be able to develop this project. As you may recall, the approach that we're taking is slightly different than we have in the past. Jean will get into that in greater detail in her presentation. And then following that, we'll come back in order to go through the two resolutions that accompany this board item. So Jean, if you would, please.
Thank you. Okay, great. So good afternoon. Thank you to the board members for your attention. Can we go to the next slide? So basically, we have a critical mass of folks interested in continuing on the work of the from Clean Resource solicitation. At this time, everybody remains interested in that process except East Bay had pulled out. So other than that, everybody remains interested in proceeding to the next stage of this process. Next slide. As you might remember, on September 15th, you approved us issuing a request for offers for Firm Clean Resources. The Firm Clean Resources are basically one of the categories that the CPUC requested that CCA or directed that CCA should buy. It's basically the sort of sister resource to long duration storage, in that it is the same amount and also must be online in June of 2026. What we're asking of you in this particular board meeting is that you delegate to the general manager the authority to shortlist those projects that we identify as being the most promising, and to execute non-disclosure agreements and exclusivity agreements with the project developers that we shortlist, and that you approve a cost-sharing agreement for phase 2. So the way we had organized this particular project was that phase 1, which would result in shortlisting, was all undertaken using sweat equity or contributions of consultants or attorneys by the people interested in proceeding with this project. And then in phase 2, the plan is to hire Kevin Fox to undertake negotiations in company with Sonoma Clean Power, and then to hire Carrie Bentley to provide technical support, particularly as to transmission issues, which are the most tricky issues for these particular resources, as the bulk of the resources are located in Nevada. Next slide. Agenda, we'll talk quickly about the budget and schedule, roles and responsibilities, the status and next steps. So in terms of the schedule and the budget, the RFO was issued in mid-October. The proposals were submitted in mid-December. We had as a goal to shortlist to undertake the evaluation and shortlist by mid-February. We are pushing pretty hard to shortlist sooner than later. The reality is that there are limited resources out there, and so the sooner we can identify those projects that would be the most advantageous for us, the sooner we can get them subject to an exclusivity agreement, the better chance we have to getting those projects. So although we have mid-February as the outside date, we are hoping to shortlist as soon as we can. As soon as we do go ahead and shortlist and sign those exclusivity agreements and get the deposits from our potential counterparties, we will engage in aggressive contract negotiations with the hope that we could have contracts executed no later than July. In addition, the budget was already approved in the last board meeting. We're going to try to stay at a budget of $150,000. That's going to require a fair amount of discipline in terms of how we use the consultants. As I mentioned, Sonoma Clean Power has graciously offered to be the lead business negotiator. That's a very good choice because they have a lot of experience with geothermal. They're also going to be, to the extent appropriate, be reaching out to those other of you who have experience also with geothermal, in particular 3CE, And Silicon Valley Clean Energy have negotiated some geothermal agreements, and they've offered to make themselves available on a case-by-case basis to help support that effort. And then I will work with Deb to make sure that we keep the POC abreast of progress. The idea is not to have negotiation by committee, but instead to give Deb and Kevin leeway to get the best deal in place, but to remain sufficiently in contact with the POC so that that deal is acceptable to the folks who are interested in participating in these projects. Next slide, please. We were asked by the board last time that we discussed the Firm Clean Resource Project to prepare a project charter. We have done that, and that is part of your board packet. Basically, I will continue to be project lead and basically try to keep us on track with the support of Sonoma Clean Power and Tim. Sonoma Clean Power, as I mentioned, has offered to be the lead negotiator. Tim will continue to coordinate with board members and make sure that we stay within budget. And each of the participants has signed up to participate and contribute, particularly for the analysis that will result in shortlisting. I am, really thankful for everybody's participation. We have some really good, knowledgeable people who are digging into the issues. Frankly, as I mentioned, the biggest issues are going to be transmission. So most likely our shortlisting will focus on those projects that we have the most confidence will both be projects that will be developed and that can be brought into California and meet the CPUC's requirements. Last slide, please. In terms of project status, as I mentioned, we're going to have weekly coordination meetings with the POC so that we can keep them abreast of developments and so that we have the best opportunity to make sure that the agreements that we negotiate are acceptable to all members. We as a project team will continue to coordinate and make sure that we keep the project going on schedule and within budget. We are evaluating the proposals based on the evaluation criteria that were in the solicitation. So that's something that you already had an opportunity to look at. We're finalizing the consultant, the scope of work for the consultant. I believe we've already done that for the legal team. And the next big milestone, as I mentioned, is shortlisting, which we're hoping to do sooner than later so that we can, have those, those projects that we think are most advantageous, focused very closely on concluding an agreement with us. Any questions?
Okay, so I don't see any questions for Jean-Soleil at this point. So Tim, we have two items here, two resolutions for item 6B. Is there anything else we want to present in terms of background information before we talk about the resolutions?
Not that comes to mind, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good. So the two resolutions we have in front of us, one is resolution 22013, which is to approve CC Cloud non-disclosure agreement and exclusivity agreement authority for negotiation of the FCR resource projects. And the second is 22104, which is approval of the FCR phase 2 cost sharing agreement and authorization for GM to execute this on behalf of CC Power. There is a staff report with some background information in there. So let me ask if the board has any questions on the resolutions before we, some clarifying questions, and then we'll take it to public comment and then come back for a motion on both the resolutions. So,
I just want to be clear that in asking the board for authority to enter into exclusivity agreements and take deposits, that's basically shortlisting. So that is asking for authority to shortlist those projects which the POC identifies as being the most promising.
not seeing any questions from the board at this time. Let me ask if the public has any comments on this item. I don't see any, so let me just come back and ask our general counsel, Brittany Alves, to kind of provide and tee up this for vote for both these resolutions.
Okay, so we will start with the, was there another question?
Oh, yeah, actually, I see two here. So we go with Director Mitchell first, followed by Director Marshall.
All right, I didn't have a question. I was just going to motion to approve.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So actually, I should have done that. Maybe the point here is, Brittany, we'll do this one at a time?
Yes.
We'll do, okay. So Director Mitchell, you made a motion to approve 220103?
I do, yes.
Okay, great. Director Marshall?
And because I was slower on the draw, I will second.
Okay, great. Any discussion? No? So let's now take it to vote.
Okay, for resolution 220103, Central Coast Community Energy,
Yes.
Clean Power SF,
Yes.
East Bay Community Energy,
Yes.
Marin Clean Energy,
Yes.
Peninsula Clean Energy,
Yes.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority,
Yes.
San Jose Clean Energy,
Yes.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy,
Yes.
Sonoma Clean Power Authority,
Yes.
Valley Clean Energy.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution passes.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion on resolution 220104. Keep my eyes peeled to see who has their hands up.
I'll move.
Okay, great. Director Marshall moves.
No.
I'll second.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead,
Was
Don.
Sorry, was that Director Mitchell? Or,
I think Don was faster than me.
Sorry,
but
Director
I'm-
Weiss. okay, Don, so you're seconding.
Yeah.
Let's go to vote.
Okay, for resolution 220104, Central Coast Community Energy,
Yes.
Clean Power SF,
Yes.
East Bay Community Energy,
Yes.
Marin Clean Energy,
Yes.
Peninsula Clean Energy,
Yes.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority,
Yes.
San Jose Clean Energy,
Yes.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy,
Yes.
Sonoma Clean Power Authority,
Yes.
and Valley Clean Energy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The resolution passes.
Thank you very much. Great progress on this second tranche here. Thank you very much. So we'll now move to item 6C, which is selection of board officers. As per our JPA, we are scheduled to have elections in the first meeting of the year in January. So item 1 is election of chair and vice chair. We can either renew or appoint. I would like to offer up a slate on nominate Director Cyphers as the chair and Director Mitchell as vice chair, starting with the next meeting of the CC Power Board. And I'd be open to take a motion on that. And of course, if there are other folks who are interested in one or the other position, I'd love to hear from you too, so we can discuss that. So I see a hand up, Director Marshall.
I move that slate. You know, obviously, public comment and others comment, but I'll make a motion to approve that.
Okay, Director Pepper.
I will second it.
Okay, great. And let's see, any discussion from the board on this item? Now I'll go to public comment. Please raise your hands if you have some comments. I don't see any. So let's come back to the board. And if there's no further discussion, I'll ask our general counsel to take us to vote on this.
Okay, for resolution 220105, electing Director Cyphers as chair and Director Mitchell as vice chair. Central Coast Community Energy,
Yes.
Clean Power SF,
Yes.
East Bay Community Energy,
Yes.
Marin Clean Energy,
Yes.
Peninsula Clean Energy,
Yes.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority,
Yes.
San Jose Clean Energy,
Yes.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy,
Wholehearted yes.
Sonoma Clean Power Authority,
Yes, I accept.
Valley Clean Energy.
Guess so. Yes, of course.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
Phenomenal. Thank you for that vote. And looking forward to new leadership of CC Power. So,
I have my hand up.
Make a comment.
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, Matthew.
I'll let Don go first.
I just wanted to express huge gratitude and thanks to our chair for leading us through this last year. It's been a lot of heavy lifting. We've accomplished so much, and I just want to express, but I think a lot of us are feeling huge gratitude and thanks for your leadership, Grish.
Thank you very
That-
much.
My hand went up first, but Dawn is, gets to go first on lots of things as well. She should. So that was what I was going to say. Was thanks for herding the cats on this, Rish.
Totally appreciate it. It was definitely a really great journey. If I may just make a comment, I kind of started off actually with Tom Habashi back in 2018, starting this whole process. And then with some changes in the industry, we kind of put that aside. And then we started this off again. Really loved the opportunity to get this started prior to January 2021 with Jim Shetler, Tony Braun, to get this going. And I just have to say that Monica Padilla was just an amazing right-hand person to me in supporting us right through. Thank you to our general manager, Tim Haynes. And yeah, so great work, enjoyed it, and look forward to the next year too. All right, so item 6C2, we do have a resolution, consideration and appointment of secretary and treasurer controller. It's resolution 220106. And I wanted to thank Director Habashi for agreeing to continue to be treasurer, and BBSW continuing to be secretary. So we do have a resolution, and it'll probably get popped up on the screen, and look forward to any questions, and if not, entertain a motion and second for this. Okay, Director Marshall.
Pending public comment, I'll move we approve resolution.
Okay, great. And Director Mitchell.
And I'll second that.
Fantastic. I'll now go to public comment and see if we have any members of the public who would like to comment on this. Not seeing any hands raised. Let's come back. Maybe have a motion and second. Ask our General Counsel, Brittany Alves, to take us to vote, please.
All right, for resolution 220106, Central Coast Community Energy,
Yes.
Clean Power SF,
Yes.
East Bay Community Energy, East Bay Community Energy. Okay, I'll come back. Marin Clean Energy,
Yes.
Peninsula Clean Energy,
Yes.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority,
Yes.
San Jose Clean Energy,
Yes.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy,
Yes.
Sonoma Clean Power Authority,
Yes.
Valley Clean Energy,
Yes.
and go back to East Bay Community Energy. Okay, I believe might be absent.
Okay.
The resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to item 7. Any individual member items that a board member would like to bring to our attention? Okay, seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 1:56 p.m. Thank you all very much. Have a great, safe day.
Thanks,
Bye.
Krish. Thanks for leading us through the first year.